Good afternoon and happy Pride Month. Welcome to Book Talk, Even the Sidewalk Could Tell with Alon Ozery. My name is Jennifer Hicks and I'm Director of Alumni and Stakeholder Programs at our university. We're really excited to gather today to hear more about this memoir. Before we begin, I want to pay my respects to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the land and people who lived on the land where our university is located. At the university, we've made important commitments to reconciliation, and I invite you all to take a look at what's going on, learn more about this work online and in person the next time we can gather on campus. A couple of quick reminders: this session is being recorded and you'll be able to rewatch it and share it with your friends. And also, if you have questions during the book talk, you can share them at the bottom through the Q&A set feature on Zoom. And our moderator will use those audience questions towards the end of the session. Now I'm delighted to introduce you to the author of Even the Sidewalk Could Tell, How I Came Out to My Wife, My 3 Children, and the World, Alon Ozery, and the moderator for today's event, Dan Kentler. Born in Toronto and raised in Israel, Alon returned permanently to Canada at age 21, earning his undergraduate degree in hospitality management from Toronto Metropolitan University. He married at age 24 and raised 3 children with his wife. Alon is a successful author and co-founder of Ozery Bakery and Parallel Brothers. Alon began exploring his inner self in his mid-30s, and he's still on that journey today. Welcome, Alon. Dan Kentler is a decision support analyst in the Ted Rogers School of Management and co-chair of Positive Space Faculty and Staff Network at Toronto Metropolitan University. Dan also serves as the Director of Inclusion and Anti-Oppression with Forte, Toronto Gay Men's Chorus, and as a Director at Large with the Canadian Association of College and University Student Services. Welcome, Dan. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Dan and Alon to get us started, and enjoy.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And hello, Alon. We've had a chance to connect a little bit before this, but always nice to see you. Before we kind of jump into some of the questions and as well, welcome questions from the audience. I'd like to provide or share a little bit of background about your memoir, which is right here, as you can see, Even the Sidewalk Could Tell. And so a little bit about yourself. So you're born in Toronto to an Orthodox Jewish father and British mother, raised in Israel and educated in Canada. So you have had experience growing up and living in different parts of the world. You didn't come out of the closet until after you'd had a wife and 3 children. And you talk about that journey in your book. So from your childhood on the shores of the Mediterranean to dodging women and ducking work in the motor pool of the Israeli army when you were in service, the book relates your winding journey to discover your true self. It's funny, it's heartwarming, and it's very honest in your self-reflection and brave as well as a memoir, and showing what it means ultimately and what it takes to claim self-acceptance, create inner peace, and march forward towards the best version of yourself. So first of all, an incredible story, and thank you so much for writing it and sharing it really with the world. So yeah, that's a little bit about the story, and I'm going to be jumping into some questions about your memoir and a little bit more about you, so our audience can get to know you a bit better. So to start, what was the inspiration for you to write the memoir?
So first of all, thank you, Dan. Every time I hear that intro or people talk about the book, I get nervous because it's so personal. And then it came to mind, like, not if the closet had a basement, that's where I was. So I needed a little more time to find my way out of that closet. It's an odd thing. This book seemed to need to come out literally and figuratively. I never thought I could write. I had no interest in writing a book, but I'd say 3 years ago, this need came and this desire, and I just started writing. And there are a few people in my life that encouraged that to happen. And I attended a book memoir weekend kind of thing, which I attended under protest. The best way I can describe it is it felt like I just had to give birth to this book. And now I have no desire to write right now again. And I'm happy with that process. So yeah, I can't explain it. It's just happened.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm grateful that you were struck by the inspiration to write because, through reading it as well, it does feel it is, of course, it's your story, so it's very personal. But I think as a reader, it was easy to follow because it felt like it was a conversation, right? Like this is you saying, this is my life up to this point, this is my journey. And I think that there's a lot to in terms of what happens like through the reflection, right? And reflection through writing as well. So I'm not sure if you felt that by writing the book that changed you, or if that, further cemented your sense of identity in terms of your coming out or coming into, your identity as a queer person.
Yeah, I think it's all of the above. I think you hit it. And in addition to that, so in addition to contributing to me, I mean, writing the book was one thing, and then making the decision to publish it, which was a much bigger decision and emotional one, which still affects me today, again, with some nervousness at times. But my goal and energy, I just have so much love I want to share with people, and I just see the world and want it to be better. And I'm really hoping that by reading this book, it makes some people's lives a little better. So again, my approach, and I think you've seen it, is not to look at things in a negative way. I'm thankful for everything I went through, and some of it was rough, but it did lead to a new place, and I'm so really happy of who I am today, and not only that, but I've surrounded myself with a lot of really amazing people, and the book had a lot to do with it.
That's great. That's wonderful. I think, so one thing I was hoping to touch on, because a lot of no two coming out stories are exactly the same, but perhaps, and maybe what we see in media, or maybe the stories that we're used to hearing, is people kind of maybe coming of age when they're maybe younger, or in the course of their studies, or maybe at university, et cetera. But also, folks do come out later in life, or maybe they already have families, maybe they have kids, right? Even sometimes seniors are coming out. So, the experience is not just for one part of life. And what I noted throughout reading was that, you talk and reference, and you demonstrate a lot of respect and for the partnership that you have with your wife, your ex-wife, and how you kind of navigated that coming out journey with special consideration for your wife and kids. So I'm curious, like, how, the decision to publish and now having your memoir out there since this past fall, has that changed your relationship with them? From what we would see in the book to how things are now? Are things the same? Is it a non-issue? Like,
Yeah. All good questions. So my two sons, who are now 22 and 20, so let's say they saw 3 years ago the transcript, and I showed it to them. I wanted them to read through it, and I had two really amazing responses from them. One of them read it, and he was, "Dad, like, this could help so many people." And I don't think it's only about sexuality. I think it's about being yourself. For me, the issue was sexuality, and me burying it deep inside and just ignoring it. But for others, it could be other things if we're not living the life, an authentic life. And my other son started reading it at 10 p.m. one night, and I think he was just going to run through it quickly. And he said at like 2 a.m. he was still reading it. He was just so into it. So it was okay with them. We're a very open family. We communicate freely and all, and that was great. With my ex-wife, it was a different story. I showed her the initial transcript, and it was very emotional for her, and it affected her strongly. And we went through a period of time where I thought this will not see the light of day because she had some reservations about it. Thankfully, again, with time, and I said, I'm not going to publish this if you're not going to sleep at night. Like that won't happen. And I'd say within a few weeks, we got together again, and she brought her yellow marker and crossed out a bunch of stuff that she wanted out. And I fully respected that. There were a couple of things that we kind of negotiated back in, but she okayed the transcript. So again, like, even though we got a little emotional at some of the time, we managed to navigate through that and have a product and a book that I'm very proud of. And I think it's not lacking anything, and it's my perspective and completely. And it's you getting, I think, being in my head by reading that book.
Right. Well, I'm happy to hear that, that there is a peaceful situation, and like there is that support, like with your family and with your ex-partner, because and obviously there's risks, right? I think you talked a lot in the book about the courage and the anticipation, like building up to kind of sharing that news, like first with your ex-partner and then with your kids, right? And something that we talked about a little bit too is that is it better to be able to kind of control or plan, you're coming out, or would it even in some ways kind of lift the weight of the thinking and planning if it just comes out, right? But I think even as queer people, whether or not the Sidewalk can tell, or whether or not we're maybe very visibly or openly kind of queer, there is a constant kind of process of coming out, right? In terms of places of work or people we're meeting. And so it's never a one-shot deal necessarily, right? Like, unless maybe we have, I don't know, a front page like spread in like a major like newspaper or magazine, but I guess I don't think we're that famous yet. Maybe not yet. But in terms of day-to-day life or meeting new people, like that's something that you have to navigate and think about safety and pieces like that. So anyways, yeah, and I didn't get the sense from your book either that you're saying this is the right way of coming out either, but this was my story.
Yeah, it's for me, it never ends. Sometimes I'm envious of people where it's clear, most people can guess, and I don't know what they guess, but they guess something. But with me, it never ends. It's so coming out I used to plan it and allocate make sure I have enough energy to go through that process, because with a closer circle that required, I don't know, it taxed me. It took a lot of energy out of me. I was exhausted from it. So I had the luxury of staggering it over a period of time. Today, it doesn't take as much energy at all from me, but I am definitely cognizant of it. I told you I was on a trip just last month or last couple of weeks ago, and with a bunch of strangers, people, entrepreneurs. And that did go through my mind, is when do I tell them? When's the right time? If we were going to meet for an hour and that's it, that wouldn't be a big deal. It wouldn't be an issue, but these are people I spent close to 2 weeks together with, and I thought it was important for them to know. So it never ends, and it does get easier, but it still requires thought and strategy from a communication point of view for me. And I don't care about the ramifications. I mean, if people are happy or don't care, fantastic. If they care, I don't care. So it's all good.
I want to visit one part that, so I grew up in the suburbs. So when I was reading your book, things kind of seemed to take a little bit of a turn, or come to a head, like when your family moved a bit further out of downtown Toronto into the suburbs. And it seemed like you started feeling uneasy. You felt like it was what is it about that environment or your experience at that time that you think could make it challenging for people to live authentically, or maybe choose to come out? And what advice would you give to other people who maybe they don't live in a big city, but they're navigating their queer or trans identity?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, but all I can give is my perspective. And personally, I'm not in love with the suburbs. And I think it's I respect and have lots of friends who live in the suburbs. My best friends live in suburbs, but I'm joking. For me, the energy of suburbs are it just seems very everybody seems the same. They could be even of different backgrounds and ethnicities and whatnot, but they all kind of, for me, energetically seem to try and fit into a certain whatever socioeconomic background they come with, and their energetic vibration is very similar, and that's boring to me. And obviously mine didn't fit in, even though I didn't know so at the time, but I knew deep inside, but wouldn't acknowledge it. And what I do love about the downtown is the beauty of all the different people and energies and any socioeconomic background. I'm looking through my window here and I see people who are homeless, unfortunately, and I see Range Rovers in the downtown. And I like that. I like the fact that I can be invisible also here. I could wear whatever, be whatever, and people won't give me the time of day necessarily. Yet I have friends here and all. And so it's both a community, but I can also be free to be myself. And I think that's what I do like about downtowns. I think it's easier to come out in an area like this. And, but, suburbs are good for some.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm my intention isn't to drag on the suburbs or anything like that, but I because that kind of came through a bit in your story, I was kind of curious about that.
Oh, I had people got angry at me. Like, I have a couple of friends who live in suburbs and love the suburbs, and it struck a chord.
Like, how dare you? No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Eventually, I said that because I wasn't comfortable with myself, I think I wasn't comfortable with the suburbs. I think that the gap between who I was with myself and not being authentic with myself was the bigger issue rather than the suburbs.
Right. Fair. So as was mentioned in the introduction, you're part of two businesses, so Ozery Bakery and Parallel Brothers, and you're also an alumnus of Toronto Metropolitan University from the business school. So yeah, I'd love to maybe for you to share a little bit about sort of those businesses, but also how your time at the university impacted your career path into what you're doing now.
Sure. So yeah, first of all, the fact that the university was downtown exposed me to downtown, and I love food, and my background is Yemeni Israeli / Jewish and English non-Jewish. So I had different perspectives, and I really connected with a food element from my Yemeni family, making pitas and all that. And Ryerson supported me in that. We had a course where we took over the restaurant. At the time, it was the old Ibis Hotel. I'm giving out my age here, but it's by the Metro supermarket down there. And part of the course was to take over the restaurant and come up with a menu, a theme, sell tickets, sell foods, and whoever sells the most wins. And I did really well in that. Like in regular school, I didn't do that well, but whenever these special projects happened, I was all in. I also wrote the business plan in year 4 for our first restaurant, which led to the growth of the commercial bakery, etc. It was called originally Pita Break. And that was tremendous help. Me and my partner at the time, who was a really good friend of mine now, who lives now in Maui, and we see each other at least once a year. So the business plan won first place, and we won $300 for that. And the first night after that, we drank it away. But that was my first really good investment. And but we used that to get a loan from the bank, and we opened the store at Wellesley and Yonge Street as a family with my ex and my father, and then my brother joined soon after. So everything intertwined, right? Both the university and the location.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And to see sometimes even if that wasn't, you said it was like those specific courses or those assignments that kind of gave opportunity, and allowed you to kind of dig in or build like the blueprint for, you starting into the business. So I think that's really, really cool that there's like the practical elements, right? From your time as a student that helped you.
Yeah, the accounting saved me. I actually taking
Fair.
accounting courses.
Yeah.
When I sit with accountants soon after, I knew what they're talking about.
Right.
There were a bunch of course, a bunch of courses which help.
That's great. That's great. So knowing that, festivals in Toronto are coming more back to in-person, including Pride, like for Pride Month, how do you think, what does this year's Pride mean to you? Given the book, but given, trying to come out of the pandemic, what does it look like for you? What are you most looking forward to?
Well, COVID hit us all, both I say emotionally and business wise. And to me, this Pride represents another coming out. We're back. We're living. I wanted also to mention Glad Day Bookstore on Church Street, which carry the book, and they're so awesome. They're really they represent the community really, really well, and they're great people there. And so it all comes together. Our friends, I'm sure I'll have a few incoherent days later this month, and be very, very happy. It's getting back to life for me.
Yeah. Like I find like kind of Pride is sort of like a homecoming in a sense, right? Or I would bump into people that I recognize, or people that I was like students with, like I went to school downtown anyways, but you kind of bump into people, even if it's just in passing, like, hey, happy Pride. And there's something, even that's something as simple as that, but it's something that kind of brings joy, or that we're there together, which will be nice.
The question, Dan, is will you hug them when you see them? Because I will hug everyone.
Undecided. We'll see how
Okay.
I want to, like, inside I'm hugging them for sure.
We'll see how many beers you have.
Fair. One more question, I think, before we get to the audience questions. So some of the proceeds from the sale of your book are going towards Friends of Ruby in Toronto. I was wondering if you could share with the audience a little bit about this organization and why you chose to select them as a partner.
So thank you for mentioning them. Friends of Ruby are an awesome organization. They provide a home, I think around 30 beds, to youth that are kicked out of their house for who they are. And they don't have that network to support them. And it just breaks my heart thinking about that. So they provide a room, and they provide support and help with schooling and or work and more, a lot more than that. And we provide them with some food, some bread that we make at the bakery. And I'm really happy to give 50% of the profits of every book. So this book is not a huge moneymaker at all, but it goes towards a really good organization, giving networks to people who are hurt because of who they are.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And I guess before meeting you, I had only recently heard of this organization. So I think it's really wonderful. And I think there are studies too that, that's a high percentage of youth who are underhoused, they do identify as queer or trans. And so that's also an important part of our community that we, can't neglect. So it's great that there's work and supports there for them. Mm-hmm. So we do have some audience questions. I'm going to read out one of them that has come through the chat. So how do you introduce romantic relationships to your family? And how does this play out with the people you care about? How has that been for you?
Now it's good. I remember when I came out to my father, he's older, and I was extremely worried. He wasn't even in the country. And I first talked to my brother, and then made sure he'll be with him, and made sure he has the support. I have a partner now for 3.5 years where, it's good. But at the beginning, I was really worried. I remember one time, it was the first Jewish holiday that my ex-partner joined me. And I think it was Passover. And we came to my father's house. My mom just passed away as I came out to my ex. And so it was, she never knew. But we came for Passover, and my kids already met him. And I was very, very leery and worried. And my father's great, but he's of another generation. And I didn't know, like, seeing us together, how he will respond. And we were sitting one next to another. And I'd say halfway through, he came down and stood next to me. And then he put his hand on my shoulder and his other hand on my partner's shoulder. And now, like, I get emotional now when I think about it, because that was like kind of bringing us together, and acknowledgement and acceptance. And that was it was amazing. So he proved it with action, actually.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful and like powerful gesture, right? Of kind of acknowledgement and sort of connection, right? Between physically between the three of you in that moment. But really, like, you're seen and you're welcome, like all those kinds of things. So that's really beautiful.
Yeah, like, I'll give you another, sorry if I
yeah, no,
if you want to jump to the next question, by good. But when our store was at Young and Wellesley, and the first time Pride Parade went through it, my father stood there and he was in shock. He's never seen
what is this
like
yeah, fair.
He was shocked, but he didn't say anything negative. He just really, his core is like, what is this? And the second year, he was standing in front of the store with a pile of waters, selling water and dancing to the music. So this was way before I came out. And so I guess he showed signs of acceptance and learning.
Right. That's wonderful. Another audience member has asked, so you mentioned that your son felt this book could help a lot of people. Have you received similar feedback from others who have read the book?
Yeah.
Or what has the reaction been, I guess, like, to since it's been published?
So yeah, I just got a call from a friend who bought a couple of books and gave it to a couple of friends or people that I don't know. And he was 2 weeks after he gave someone the book, that person called back and thanked him for giving him the book. I sell the book on Amazon, and I'm like up to, I don't know, just under 40 reviews. And I sometimes go to read them. Maybe it's a little shallow.
Do you like go through
shallow, but I read it just to remind me. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's so, yeah, thankfully, very, very good reviews. Honestly, like this, my issue is sexuality. I think many people have other issues of not being authentic with themselves. So it's not only for people who have need to come out or need to explore. It's about life. It's about being human.
Yeah, totally. I think we might have time for one more question. So someone asked, do you have any advice for emerging queer writers looking to share their story? So having gone through the process yourself, I know you said that you're not really writing anything right now, but maybe having gone through the process, like, do you have any advice to share with people who'd like to share their story?
Yes. Share your story. I so recommend that. And I don't be shy and write with your heart. Be yourself, be authentic. You'd be surprised how many people can connect to your story. You never, like, I don't know who I've affected by writing this book, but once in a while, it's like a sonar that sends out a beep, and the beep comes back when it hits something and an object. And the same is with writing a book. When you do it, you don't know who's going to read it, and you don't know the impact you're going to have, and maybe you'll never know. I don't know, but these beeps come back every once in a while, telling me that it was definitely the right thing. And again, so be authentic and don't be shy about sharing the story, and also seek help. I got a lot of help from people with writing the book, and I eventually paid someone to edit it. So I'm fortunate enough that I could do that. But just share it online, share your words. I think we all represent a certain vibration, and our task in this world is to be channels of good and channels of energy, and it's the energy that we represent in this world, and we all have different energies, and that's the beauty of this world. So our job is to be ourselves, and our job is to let it out there. I don't know if that answers the question, but
no, it does. That's wonderful. And yeah, like that image of, we're all vibrating, but we're all part of, we have something beautiful to kind of contribute is really wonderful. We are already just about at time, so I'm going to pass it back to Jennifer. But thank you so much, Alon, and I hope that in the future, we can welcome you back on campus and connect you with students and other alumni, and just continue to celebrate your work and your success. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you both. I know Dan can see that there are certainly more questions from the audience, and this half hour has flown by. I really enjoyed the conversation. I want to thank you so much, Dan, for moderating, and thank you, Alon. I mentioned that I first met you, it must be about 15 years ago, when the university gave you an Alumni Achievement Award, and I think the university has even more to be proud of, and you have gone on for with even more amazing achievements, and you certainly make your alma mater very proud. So thank you both for joining us today. Thank you to the audience for being here, and look for a link. You'll get an email with a link to this recording so that you can share it, and we'll have more recordings and more book talks coming up. So please stay engaged and keep on top of the website and the emails, and we'll look forward to hosting you again, and hopefully in person soon too. So until next time, thank you and take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks so much, Alon. That was fantastic. You seem very comfortable, both of you. And as I say, the half hour really does fly by.
It does. Yeah.
But, I was like trying to play with this like glare in my glasses, like trying to like. Anyways,
I'm always wondering where to look, because you guys are here, but my